Music of the 20th century. Objectives. Describes distinctive musical elements of given pieces in 20th century styles, explains the performance practice, setting, composition's role of composer, performers, and audience of the 20th century music, relates 20th century music to other art forms and media during the same period, performs music sample from the 20th century, evaluates music and music performances using guided rubrics. Everything We Can Do Is Music by John Cage. Music of the 20th century, 1900s to 2000. The start of the 20th century saw the rise of the distinct musical styles that reflected a move away from conventions of the earlier Western classical music. The new styles, Impressionism, Expressionism, Primitivism, Neoclassicism, avant-garde music, modern nationalism. Impressionism, a term borrowed from painting to describe music that is intended to convey an impression, often of a natural phenomena, rather than a dramatic or narrative idea. Claude Debussy, Maurice Ravel, well-known impressionists. Claude Debussy, 1862–1918. Debussy was born in Saint-Jean-en-Laye in France on August 22, 1862. His early musical talents were channeled into piano lessons. He entered the Paris Conservatory in 1873. He gained a reputation as an erratic pianist and rebel in the theory and harmony. His musical compositions total more or less 227, which includes orchestral music, chamber music, piano music, operas, ballet songs, and other vocal music. Debussy changed the course of the musical development by evolving traditional rules and conventions into a new language of possibilities in harmony, rhythm, form, texture, and color. As the father of the modern school of composition, he made his mark on the styles of the later 20th century composers like Stravinsky, Varis, Messiaen. He spent the remaining years of his life as a critic, composer, and performer. He died of cancer in Paris on March 25, 1918, at the height of the First World War. Famous compositions. Maurice Ravel, 1875–1937. Joseph Maurice Ravel was born in Cebu, France, to a Basque mother and a Swiss father. He entered the Paris Conservatory at the age of 14, where he studied with the eminent French composer Gabriel Fauré. The compositional styles of Ravel is mainly characterized its uniquely innovative but not atonal styles of harmonic treatment. He was a perfectionist and every beat a musical craftsman. He made approximately 60 pieces for piano, chamber music, song cycles, ballet, and opera. He died in Paris in 1937. His famous works. Impressionists, comparative styles of Debussy and Ravel. As the two major exponents of French Impressionism in music, Debussy and Ravel had crossed paths during their lifetime, although Debussy was 13 years older than Ravel. While their musical works sound quite similar in terms of their harmonic and textural characteristics, the two differed greatly in their personalities and approach to music. Whereas Debussy was more spontaneous and liberal in form, Ravel was very attentive to the classical norms of musical structure and compositional craftsmanship, whereas Debussy was more casual in his portrayal of visual imagery. Ravel was more formal and exacting in the development of his motive ideas. Expressionism. Expressionism revealed the composer's mind. Instead of presenting an impression of the environment, it used a tonality and a 12-tone scale, lacking stable and conventional harmonies. It served as a medium for expressing strong emotions such as anxiety, rage, and alienation. Arnold Schoenberg, 1874–1951. Arnold Schoenberg was born in a working-class suburb of Vienna, Austria on September 13, 1874. He taught himself music theory but took lessons in counterpoint German composer Richard Wagner influenced Schoenberg's work. He had approximately 213 musical compositions, include concerti, orchestral music, piano music, operas, choral music, songs, and other instrumental music. He died on July 13, 1951 in Los Angeles, California, USA, where he had settled since 1934. His famous works. Igor Stravinsky, 1882–1971. Igor Stravinsky stands alongside fellow composers Schoenberg, painter Pablo Picasso, and literary figure James Joyce as one of the great trendsetters of the 20th century. He was born in Lomonosov, Russia on June 17, 1882. He adopted the forms of the 18th century with his contemporary style of writing. Despite its shocking modernity, his music is also very structured, precise, controlled, full of artifice, and theatrically. His musical output approximates 127 works, including concerti, orchestral music, instrumental music, operas, ballets, solo vocals, choral music. He died in New York City on April 6, 1971. Neoclassicism. Neoclassicism, a term describing the music of some 20th century composers whose techniques draws those of the Baroque and Classical periods. Bela Bartok, 1881–1945. Bela Bartok was born in Negozet-Nicholas, Romania on March 25, 1881 to a musical parents. He started piano lessons with his mother and later entered Budapest Royal Academy of Music in 1899. He was a neoclassicist, primitivist, and nationalist composer. He used Hungarian folk themes and rhythms. His compositions were successful because of their rich melodies and lively rhythm. And his famous works. Bartok's approximately 700 musical compositions includes concerti, orchestral music, piano music, instrumental music, dramatic music, choral music, and songs. In 1940, the political developments in Hungary led him to migrate to the United States, where he died on September 26, 1945 in New York City. Serge Prokofiev in 1891 to 1953. Serge Prokofiev is regarded today as a combination of neoclassicist, nationalist, and avant-garde composer. His style is uniquely recognizable for its progressive technique, pulsating rhythms and melodic directions, and a resolving dissonance. Born in the Ukraine in 1891, he set out for the St. Petersburg's Conservatory equipped with his great talent as a composer and a pianist. His musical compositions include concerti, chamber music, film scores, operas, ballets, and official pieces for the state occasions. He died in Moscow on March 15, 1953. Famous works: Concerti in C Major, Opera 26 No. 3, and Symphony No. 1. Francis Poulenc, 1899–1963. One of the relatively few composers born into wealth and a privileged social position. The neoclassicist Francis Jean-Marcel Poulenc was a member of the group of young French composers known as Les Six. Poland's musical compositions total around 185, which includes solo piano works as well as vocal solos known as melodies, which highlighted many aspects of his temperament in his avant-garde style. He died in Paris on January 30, 1963. Few of his famous works. Avant-garde music. The avant-garde style was associated with electronic music and dealt with the parameters or dimensions of sound in space. It made use of variations of self-contained note groups to change musical continuity and improvisation of an absence of traditional rules of harmony, melody, and rhythm. George Gershwin, 1898-1937. He was born in New York to Russian Jewish immigrants. Early 1900s, his name became a fixture on Broadway. He composed Rhapsody in Blue in 1924 and An American in Paris in 1928. He was influenced by Ravel, Stravinsky, Berg, and Schoenberg, as well as the group of contemporary French composers known as Les Six that would shape the character of his major works, half jazz and half classical. Gershwin was considered the father of American jazz. His mixture of primitive and the sophisticated gave his music an appeal that has lasted longer after his death. His musical compositions total around 365, which includes orchestral music, chamber music, musical theater, film musicals, operas, and songs. He died in Hollywood, California, USA on July 11, 1937. Leonard Bernstein, 1918–1990, born in Massachusetts, USA. Leonard Bernstein endeared himself to his many followers as a charismatic conductor, pianist, composer, and lecturer. His big break came when he was asked to substitute for the ailing Bruno Walter in conducting the New York Philharmonic Orchestra. In a concert on November 14, 1943, Bernstein's philosophy was that the universal language on music is basically rooted in tonality. Bernstein is best known for his compositions for the stage. Foremost among these is the musical West Side Story 1957, an American version of Romeo and Juliet which displays a tuneful, offbeat, and highly atonal approach to the songs. Other output include another Broadway hit, Candide 1956, and the much celebrated Mass 1971, which he wrote for the opening of the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington, D.C. His musical compositions total around 90. He died in New York City, USA on October 14, 19. Philip Glass, born 1937. One of the most commercially successful minimalist composer is Philip Glass, who is also an avant-garde composer. He explored the territories of ballet, opera, theater, film, and even television jingles. Born in New York, USA of Jewish parentage, Glass became an accomplished violinist and flutist at the age of 15. In Paris, he became inspired by the music of the renowned Indian sitarist Ravi Shankar. He formed the Philip Glass Ensemble and produced works such as Music in Similar Motion, 1969, and Music in Changing Parts, 1970, which combined rock-type grooves with perpetual patterns played at extreme volumes. Modern nationalism refers to the use of musical ideas or motifs that are identified with a specific country, region, or ethnicity, such as folk tunes and melodies, rhythms, harmonies inspired by them. However, these common grounds stop there, for the different breeds of nationalists forms their own styles of writing. 20th century musical style. The new musical styles created by 20th century classical composers were truly unique and innovative. They experimented with the elements of rhythm, melody, harmony, tempo, and timbre in daring ways never attempted before. Some even made use of electronic devices such as synthesizers, tape recorders, amplifiers, and the like to introduce and enhance sounds beyond those available with traditional instruments. Among the resulting new styles were electronic music and chance music. This expanded the concepts of music far beyond the conventions of earlier periods and challenging both new composers and listening public. Electronic music. Music which uses electronic equipments or devices. Edgar Varese, 1883–1965. Edgar Varese was born December 22, 1983. He was considered an innovative French-born composer. He invented the term organized sound. Varese's use of new instruments and electronic resources made him the father of electronic music, and he was described as the stratospheric colossus of sound. His musical compositions total around 50, with his advances in tape-based sound and proving revolutionary during his time. He died on December 6, 1965. Karl-Heinz Stockhausen, 1928 to 2007. Karl-Heinz Stockhausen is a central figure in the realm of electronic music. Born in Cologne, Germany, he had the opportunity to meet Messiaen, Schoenberg, and Webern, the principal innovators at the time. Stockhausen's music was initially met with resistance due to its heavily. Some of his works include Gropin (1957), a piece for three orchestras that move music through time and space; Contact (1960), a work that pushed the tape machine to its limit; and the epic Hymen (1965), an ambitious two-hour work of 40 juxtaposed songs and anthems from around the world. He died in Germany last December 2007. Chance music. Music in which chance or randomness of performances is an element of the composition. Most of the sounds emanates from the surroundings, both natural and man-made, such as honking cars, rustling leaves, blowing wind, dripping water, or a ringing phone. As such, the combination of external sounds cannot be duplicated as each happens by chance. John Cage, 1912–1992. John Cage's 4 minutes and 33 seconds, where the pianist merely opens the piano lid and keeps silence for the duration of the piece. He was born in Los Angeles, California, USA on September 5, 1912, and became one of the most original composers in the history of Western music. He challenged the very idea of music by manipulating musical instruments in order to achieve new sounds. He experimented with what came to be known as chance music. 229 was his total compositions. He died in New York City on August 12, 1992. Everything We Can Do Is Music by John Cage.